Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com.
Personalise your hydration strategy because one size fits all just doesn't work for hydration. These electrolyte supplements match how you sweat, helping you prevent dehydration and cramp. You can get a free box or tube of Precision Hydration worth up to $9.99 with the code OxygenAddict.
Team Oxygen Addict at team.oxygenaddict.com.
Online triathlon coaching, providing you with a personalised triathlon training plan, coaching advice from Rob Wilby, and group video coaching calls.
And fueledbykate.com.
Help me to raise over £15,000 for charity by buying the recipe book. There's loads of amazing recipes in there from the likes of Rachel Joyce and Laura Siddle and Chrissy Wellington and Vicky Holland. So get on it, fueledbykate.com. It's £10 and it's all for charity.
Awesome stuff. And a big thank you as well to our patrons
who support the show with a monthly donation.
All right, and welcome to the show. Hells, how are we doing?
Still in the PJs, Rob.
Loving it. You straight to bed after the recording, are you?
I might watch something. I might watch, because I haven't seen enough of it, clearly, a bit of Winter Olympics highlights.
Nice.
And then go to bed. But
an early night.
Yep.
Ready for training the next day.
Day
10,
something.
11?
I've no idea. I started work on the 5th of February.
It's a long time ago.
What are we now? 20th?
19th, 20th, yeah.
Yeah, 19th, 20th. So yeah, I have no idea. Honestly, the only reason I knew it was Friday was because I had Flapjack Friday.
When you're telling the days by the kind of cake that you're eating, Helen, you know you're putting the hours in. You've been pulling the big yards, haven't you, for this?
We have been pulling the big yards. Yep. It's very strange, though. You just don't know what day of the week it is. It just goes from one to the next.
Yes, you don't get a weekend, do you?
No. In at the weekend as well. So it's all good fun. And I'm looking forward to my alarm not going off at 10 to 5 or 20 to 5 in the morning.
Oh,
That'll be quite nice. I mean, tomorrow I still have that joy to look forward to. But head to the PJs now.
Nice.
Oh, and Rob, let me fill you in, right?
Yeah.
So, because I'm doing long hours at work at the moment, and because I am not having any really much free time at all, like the ability to actually get my heart rate up or anything like that is very limited. Okay. So, you know how Fitbits are like all the rage?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've never actually worn a Fitbit, but I didn't. Or my Garmin, it's a very basic Garmin, but it does actually have the old step counter. I've never used it until this week when I actually thought, you know what, I'm going to use the stairs at work. So I've banned the lift, and I've just seen how many steps I do by banning the lift.
Okay.
And it's around 5,000 to 7,000 a day just from not using the lift. So I'm just sort of putting it out there that, you know, if you don't have time, you can still keep moving.
Stay off the lift, yeah. That's it.
Honestly, it makes a massive difference. So yeah, so I've done that, and a bit of running to the train station on my way home.
And that's been it, has it? For the limit of your training has been running for the train and back recently?
Well, half an hour run. Yeah, every other day I've tried to do that.
Good for you. That's good.
And then I didn't drown yesterday when I went to the pool on my way home. I thought I might drown. I stayed in for about 25 minutes, half an hour, and then I was like, oh, I've had enough.
You look good when I saw you in the pool a couple of weeks ago when I was down on poolside.
Thanks.
You were moving well through the water. I was yeah.
I'm liking the swimming at the moment. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Honestly, once this stint of work is over, I'm so excited to get back into routine and kind of be able to do anything for longer than 25 minutes, half an hour.
Well, it sounds like you've done the smart thing, because you've kept yourself moving every single day while you've been super busy, and that means that when you've got the time to train again, you're going to be able to slot straight back into it. Loving your work, Hells.
Thanks. There you go.
Loving your work.
Have you been coaching and running and doing stuff, more fun stuff, Rob?
Yes, I have. I'm sorry. While you've been buried under a mountain of being in the office, I've been out doing fun stuff all the time. I'm sorry, mate.
No, it's fine. Most people have. Honestly, it's all right. What have you been up to?
Just the usual, really. Sitting at the computer and getting training plans done, and then getting out as soon as I can to be out in the fresh air and shouting at people at the track. And made made a couple of surprise appearances at the club swim sessions, do a little bit of coaching on deck, which was a nice change of pace.
I did spot you actually. Yeah. I was like, what's Rob doing?
Get down and cast a watchful eye over my proteges. It was nice. Yeah, it's good to see everyone.
Oh, Rob, last week you put a request in, didn't you, for my spin session?
Yes. How did it go?
Bonnie Belinda
Tyler.
Carlisle, wasn't it? Bonnie. Oh yeah, sorry, Bonnie.
Not that I'm adverse to a bit of Belinda Carlisle. Credit where credit's due. The legend that is Belinda.
Bonnie Tyler got a few smiles towards the end of the Valentine's playlist special.
I bet it did.
And then we started a bit of a rumour, Rob.
Go on.
Well...
Oh, I saw this on Twitter. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It kind of... You can see how rumours spread, because basically, by the end of that session, apparently, you had been the guitar in her band.
I was the guitarist in Bonnie Tyler, despite the fact I think that if you did the maths, I'd have been about 9 at the time. Maybe that just shows how old I'm looking these days. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the support.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, it's great. I love it. All right, come on. Let's talk about triathlon.
Let's do it.
Let's do some results. Sponsored by our friends over at precisionhydration.com. And so where are we in time? We're the 19th of February, so great stuff. If you're getting yourself down to the London Triathlon Show, which is happening this coming weekend, February the 23rd, 24th and 25th, the UK listeners might just want to get over to the Precision Hydration stand and see the guys and chat and say hello. I think that's a great idea, isn't it?
I think you should, because they'll be able to talk to you all about hydration and sweating and personalizing your strategy and all that kind of stuff. So do go and say hello to them, and also head over to their website and check out Andy's blog, because he's written some really good pieces recently. One which I think is particularly interesting after the cold and hot drinks one, which we mentioned last week. As you get older, does your hydration strategy need to change? Go and check it out on the blog at precisionhydration.com.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing about this is if you're actually at the show and you go and meet the guys, I know that sometimes people have said to me, I'm a little bit not sold on the idea of needing a personal hydration strategy. Why don't I just take whatever's given to me and I'll be fine? But I think there's definitely something to meeting the guys, seeing the science, hearing the stories, watching people having sweat tests done and seeing the massive variety of different, firstly, strengths of sweat that people put out there, so the amount of sodium that's coming out every time you sweat, and also the amount of volume of sweat that people have. And when you consider it through that lens and think, well, everybody really is different, and it can vary, sort of in my case, up to 6 times the strength of the standard electrolytes that are available on the market, it kind of makes you think, actually, yeah, for the sake of what is a very small financial investment, you can make a very big difference to your chance of not getting cramp and not getting dehydrated on race day, which are probably the 2 biggest threats to your race, I think. So get over there and check the guys out. And if you can't make it in person, check out their stuff in the online sweat test over on precisionhydration.com.
Awesome stuff. So, Rob, the place to start is going to be down in Wanaka in New Zealand. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world. And there was a really awesome field racing because Javier Gomez was in action in the men's race. The women's race had the likes of Annabelle Luxford and Laura Siddle going neck and neck, Rob.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't sort of surprise you to read that the first person who crossed the line in the men's race was indeed Javier Gomez. However, he didn't have a massive margin, Rob, just ahead of Braden Curry.
No. It was a proper race, and it was a quality field when you think, you look at your watch and go, it's the end of February. As I look at my watch, because that's where I look at the date. I'm not timing the months go by. But as well as Gomez racing, Braden Curry, Jesse Thomas, Dylan McNeice, Dougal Allen, Luke McKenzie, Joe Skipper, Luke Bell. So there's 8 very big names in triathlon there. So it's a long way from that situation where I think Gomez alluded in the interview I read that he expected really it to be a much easier race than it was. Did he win by, it was less than 20 seconds, wasn't it, in the end?
Yeah, 18 seconds, I think it was, Rob.
18 seconds, and he got pushed to a 1:12 half marathon, is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
And it's not a fast course, is it? It's not a fast flat, it's a real honest course. So firstly, it shows us that he's in really good shape this time of year. Lots of other people are in really good shape this time of year. I mean, hats off to Braden Curry for pushing him so hard, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And he did say that, Braden put a lot of pressure on him and he had to run way faster than he had expected. But yeah, really happy with actually where his fitness is at this time of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, good to see. Well, there's a big pack of guys got off the bike together there. All 8 of them pretty much were in close proximity, I think. So it really did come down to the run class of Gomez and Curry to take it out so far ahead of everyone else. Jesse Thomas going really well, really early season as well, because obviously he's based in America, so very early season for him. So yeah, all 3 of them in terrific shape early season there. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was a really, really close finish, Rob, in the women's race as well. Annabelle Luxford came out the swim with a really comfortable 4-minute lead over Laura Siddle. But then Laura Siddle absolutely smashed the bike, set a new bike course record. And then on the run, basically by the end of it, Annabelle Luxford finished 11 seconds ahead of Laura Siddle. So that's 4 times now in Wanaka and 4 second places for Laura Siddle. So I know how much she wants to take that first spot there, and I'm sure she will.
It's a credit to her to keep on pushing all the way to the end and close that lead right back down to 11 seconds on the line, hey?
It's amazing. Seriously, really, really, because they finished, 11 minutes ahead of third place, Amelia Watkinson. So yeah, cracking racing there from Annabelle and Laura as well.
Yeah. Now, next race up, we are over to Australia, aren't we, for the 70.3 Geelong?
Yeah, correct. Now, Rob, I don't know if you've seen any photos of this one, but honestly, have a little look. If you look at Grace Theck, because basically she collapsed.
Yeah, tell me the story here.
Well, she was doing her. Honestly, it almost goes back to one of those Kona finishes whereby she literally collapsed in the finishing chute. She got up and then collapsed again, and she was passed by Nina just at the finish line.
Just at the finish line.
Yeah, she said, when I came into the finish chute, I was thinking, I'm almost there, just stay in the game. But I started sprinting, which was a big mistake on my part because I knew that my legs were already suffering pretty badly. Then I fell the first time when my quads locked up. When I fell to the ground, I saw Nina, and she wasn't as close as everyone had made out. So I quickly got up and started running, and 2 meters before the line, I fell over again.
Oh, no.
I was all over the place and got a bit of a nudge, which didn't help. In hindsight, the sprint was not a good idea. It's a lesson learned. Don't listen to anyone except for my coach and people I trust.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, gutted. So, yeah, she said it was my first 70.3. It's been a positive day. I'm eager. But honestly, that's just heartbreaking, isn't it? And you can see this really amazing photo with the tape in the foreground and just these 2 neck and neck. But obviously, Grace just collapsing. Oh, gutted. And proof, absolutely, but proof for Nina of that whole never ever give up,
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, an amazing finish.
Yeah.
So we had Nina Darren take the win with Grace Theck in second and Laura Dennis in third. And over in the men's race, Sam Appleton takes it out from Josh Amberger and Ryan Fisher.
Top stuff. I like it when the races start again, Rob.
Yes, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. I was speaking to, I'll give it away now. I was speaking to Christian Blumenfeld, Mr. Norwegian, Rob. We've tracked him down. We've had a little chat.
Everyone's favourite Norwegian. Your favourite Norwegian.
Seriously, everyone's favourite Norwegian. But very interesting because he is preparing for Abu Dhabi, which is the WTS opener in just as you're hearing this, it's probably just over a week's time. And I was saying to him, do you like this time of year, or are you just sort of itching to race? And he's like, yeah, I just want to get going. I want to get going. But equally, there's that whole, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how everyone's at.
Yeah, it's good to see that the pros go through it as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. So yeah, we will have that interview for you next week, I think, just before the race.
Brilliant. We shall. I'll have it for you then. And that leads us on to talking about this week's interview, which is coming up a little bit later on. We are going to have an interview with super cyclist Dan Bigham, who won, believe it or not, 8 national titles this year in cycling before going onto the track and doing all kinds of exciting things. So we'll have that interview in a little bit of time for you then. But first, before that, we've got a great question for Coach's Couch this week from Stephen Whiston.
So, Rob, Stephen says, what's the best way to get race ready to run off the bike? I'm currently doing 7-minute intervals on the bike, like zone 3 or 4, and then an 8-minute run. And I'm doing that 3 times. I've got a standard duathlon in 6 weeks, and I'm counting. 6 weeks and counting.
Probably a little bit closer than that by now. I think we've had the question on deck for a couple of weeks, so it's probably not too far away. But I think this is a great question because there's loads of people coming up to their first season opener and doing a couple of duathlons to get the season fired open in sort of mid-March. It tends to kick off in the UK, or late March. And the question of, we're coming out of winter time. How do I get ready to race and be fast on the running off the bike at this time of year is always a really tough one. And I've got to be honest, I'm not a big fan of doing these brick workouts where you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between bike and run. I know it works for some people, and if it works for you, great, but I can only kind of speak to my experience. I think especially for early season races, the first thing you've got to do is, the way I like to approach it, 4 weeks out from that first race, you start to introduce your first run off the bike, and you're going to do it really easy to start with. It doesn't have to even be a run off a hard bike. Let's just have you run off any kind of bike session, and you're going to go out for 15 minutes straight off the bike session as soon as you've finished. Bike gets parked, pull your trainers on, and off you go. And the idea of it is just to experience how weird and wobbly and funky your legs are going to feel after a bike session. And the whole point of doing it isn't physical, it's mental. It's to tell your mind the whole time, it's okay, my legs feel weird, but they're going to come back. And in most people's experience, after about 7 to 10 minutes, they do tend to start coming back and start feeling normal again. And in an ideal world, you'll either run out and back for 7.5 minutes in each direction, or you'll do a circuit. And by the time sort of 7 to 10 minutes are up, your legs start to feel normal again. So having been through this weirdness in your mind of, my legs feel really strange, you get into this phase of going, okay, my legs feel normal again. You maybe run 3 or 4 minutes back home, and that's it, workout finished. You do the same again the week after, but this time the mental rehearsal is all about saying, I experienced this last time and it felt weird, and I know that it's going to feel better in a few minutes' time. So it's that positive self-talk the whole way through it. I know I'm going to feel better soon. My legs are going to come back. My legs are going to come back. And then when they do feel normal again, great. You can just go, I knew this was going to happen. Everything's good. Then with the 2 weeks to go before you race, we're going to start doing these runs off the bike at your goal race pace. So rather than just the cruisy run off the bike, you're going to put your trainers on and you're going to try and run at what you perceive to be your race pace. Again, this first time it just has to be for 10 minutes. It's going to feel really, really unpleasant this first time that you do it, but you're going to tough it out. Your legs are going to come back again. And it's all about that mental self-talk and just experiencing how it feels again to feel running fast off the bike. And then with 1 week to go before your race, we're going to extend that to 15 minutes of running at race pace off the bike. And physiologically at this point, we're going to be getting some adaptations as well. So mainly, the first thing to think about is just get your mind used to the idea of running off the bike. Now, I know you've had a lot of experience of doing lots of brick runs in the past, Hells. Has this lined up with what your experience has been?
Yes. The first one that you do, you just feel so foreign and horrible.
Yeah.
But then as you get more used to it, then yes, that weird feeling probably still lingers for me. It definitely still lingers for the first I don't know, 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And
It
then,
never goes away, does it? Every time you
no,
run
I
off the
don't think
bike,
it
your legs
does.
feel really weird, and you've
Yeah,
just got to overcome it with mental fortitude, really.
yeah, definitely. And it's weird how when you do get a little bit more used to it, um, how you can find that you are running a lot quicker than perhaps you think you could run. So still within, what your target pace,
Yeah.
but it doesn't
Doesn't
feel
feel
as
like it, does it?
no, and it doesn't always feel as heavy or as dreadful as you think it will. And you're like, oh, I'm actually moving all right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember. I think my favorite ever session was it would have been going into the World Championships in Austria in 2015, and I'd done a really, really like a nice hilly bike, but not ridiculous. But I remember I'd worked hard, and it was a really hot day, and I went straight out onto the run, and it was that there was a really hot period, and I just remember going and doing the run and thinking, oh yeah, I'm feeling good. This is going to be fine. Favorite one? There you go. I remember
Nice.
feeling strong.
And that's a great memory to take into race day, isn't it? That's really important. And that's why I'm kind of really keen to stress, or it's my philosophy anyway. I know other people have got a different view, but it's all about setting yourself mentally up so that you've got some good memories of having run off the bike and then finished not tired. So you felt awful, your legs came back, you felt good, woohoo! And then you finished that run. I don't think there's, certainly not for sprint and Olympic distance duathlon, there's no need for you to be doing massive runs off the bike. Let's limit that risk of injury, and let's just have you with these positive feelings, because that's what I want you to have coming off the bike, is this not muscle memory, but memory of, I'm about to run off the bike, and after the first few minutes I'm going to feel good again, and that'll put you in a very different mindset to a lot of people. Now, with the stuff said that we have already, there's a couple of things you can do to increase your chances of running well off the bike. The first one is pick up your bike cadence for the last sort of 3 to 5 minutes of your bike leg, both in training and in racing. So add about 10 revolutions a minute onto whatever your standard cadence has been. And so for some reason, it seems like getting your cadence up into the 90s towards 100, it tends to get it closer to what your running cadence is going to be. That's going to wake your muscles up a little bit more. So it's okay to make the gear a little bit easier, get your cadence a little bit faster. That seems to help people transition to running off the bike. Then when you go to running, try and think about running with a slightly faster cadence than you feel you can. Keep your feet fast and light. And the key point here is going to be, on race day, your pacing out of T2 is going to be critical, because most people go out way too fast for the first 500 meters. So
Guilty.
practice this. Well, everyone is, mate, right? Everyone's all excited. So practice it in training. You've got to think, right, I'm off the bike and I'm going to run hard, but then look down at your GPS and see what that pace actually is. And on race day, all you're going to do is blow your chances of running well by going out too fast in the first few hundred meters. And my experience was, I was always a pretty strong runner off the bike, and I would always get left for dead coming out of T2. And every time I would think, oh, this is the race where it's not going to happen for me running wise. But in every race they came back to me. And it's other people's pacing that's the problem. So you've got to have confidence that let them go crazy, run your own race. You can always pick it up towards the end. It's very hard to come back from having gone too hard too soon in the run. Okay? And my last little tip here is, work really hard in training on your bike fitness and then don't use it on race day. And what I mean by that is, if you go really hard on the bike because you've got yourself really fit and you're desperate to put a blazing bike split out there, you're going to destroy your chances of having a decent run. And most people's experience of the triathlon or the duathlon is going to be determined in that last run. So even if you're super bike fit, ride a little bit easier than you think you're capable of rather than going full gas, because then you've given yourself the opportunity to use your run fitness to have a decent run split. Sound
Nice.
good?
Nice. Rob, I just want to talk about a sprint duathlon. They're almost like more evil than a full-on 5K.
Yeah. It is. I think it's the hardest. I think duathlon's the hardest distance to race well, because you're running off the bike, but you've also got double the distance of running in your legs already. So you get
Honestly.
doubly punished in that second run, don't you?
Oh God, yes. I just think back to Alton Park, and oh man, that second run is just
Yeah,
that's about getting through. That is about mental strength to
it's
get through that second
just
run for
misery, isn't it?
sure.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So,
There we
Stephen,
go.
we hope that helps you. Let us know how you get on. Hope the first races of the season go well for you. Right, so interview of the week this week. We're very lucky to catch up with Dan Bigham. Now, I'm sure lots of people have heard of him recently, won't they, Hells?
I think they should have. They should have done because it's a remarkable story that
It
he's
is.
going to be
It's
going to the World Championships for cycling.
Yeah, so it's kind of tangential to triathlon, but not really, because Dan used to be a really good level triathlete, as we'll hear. And he also works in the realm of aerodynamics coaching and also equipment optimization, which I thought would make a dead interesting interview for people because I didn't realize until I started researching for this interview quite how much difference the right equipment, different kinds of chains, position, and things like this are actually going to make. But Dan is a former Formula One aerodynamicist. Try saying that with someone else's teeth in. So he really understands the subtle differences that position and clothing and equipment can make, first on aerodynamics, but also the differences in power that people can gain by some relatively simple and surprisingly cheap upgrades to the bike. So fascinating interview. That's before you take into account the fact that, as you said, him and his mates got together, formed a team pursuit team, and got themselves to the World Championships, which is a brilliant story in itself, which is almost separate to this. So, cracking interview. We'll hand you over to our interview of the week with Dan Bigham. Dan Bigham, welcome to the Auction Addict Triathlon podcast. So first up, thank you very much for taking the time to agree to join us. I know you're a very busy man, and it's probably a good excuse for you, really, to get to put your feet up a little bit and have a bit of a enforced recovery time, right?
Yeah, always keen to chat, and as my teammates will often say, I'll happily talk numbers and maths and physics and everything else all day and every day. So yeah, it's a good opportunity to talk about it, definitely.
Great. Well, listen, let's start by giving the listeners the overview of your season, really, because 2017 has been quite the year for you, hasn't it? Really.
Yeah, a crazy year. Somewhat unexpected in some ways. It wasn't what I planned. I guess in some ways I hadn't really gone into the season with a plan. It was all my eggs in one basket for the national track champs back in January, and then they went well and just kept building on that really, and with all the TT results and some good road race results as well, and obviously then back into the track season with Team KGF and going to the World Cups and all the stuff that happened there. It's been crazy.
You're a very modest man because we've skipped over there. Am I correct in saying it's 6 national championships you've won this year on the track? 8 now.
8. So it's 3 on the track and 5 on the road.
Fantastic. And in terms of the ones on the road that you ended up winning, what were they? And give us some idea of the kind of times that you were knocking out in the time trials that you've done this year, Dan.
Okay. So my 10-mile PB this year was a 17:24. But I'm just going to put it out there and say it wasn't a great day. But
Love it.
I can't, as much as you can say that. But results-wise, I won the National 10, the National 25, National 50, National Team Time Trial, and National Circuit Time Trial.
Great. So I think we've established a little bit of credibility in terms of training and in terms of working out your own kit and aerodynamics there, haven't we?
Yeah, that's right up my street. If anything, well, I wasn't winning those races on pure power, that's for sure. There were people finishing behind me, putting out more watts, but speed wins, not power.
That's right. Well, this is the thing that I'm really interested to sort of get into with you a little bit later on, is this idea that I know my background is my dad's a time trialist, and so I grew up with him, fettling his own aero helmet in the garage and stuff like this. So I think you and him would get on great. So I've always had this understanding that he's come back and gone, I don't feel like these overshoes are very fast. And a normal person's going to go, what? What on earth are you talking about? But it really does come down to the tiniest, smallest detail of every single piece of kit that you wear and have on your bike in terms of how much drag it produces when you're just doing pure time trialing. So that does have to carry over into triathlon, even more so, right? Because people are riding at a slower speed. So potentially there's a greater gain to be made in terms of proportion of the time that they're out there.
Oh, exactly that. If you're spending, well, everything from 4 hours, the fastest Ironman bike split, probably up to sort of 6, 7 hours.
Even
You
longer,
spend a
yeah.
great
Some of
deal
the
of
UK
time.
courses.
Yeah. Well, at Bolton's, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But
Yeah.
the amount of time you can save is unbelievable. Just focusing on the small details. I say not even small details, like selecting the right tire. And people quite often puncture protect themselves out of a race, picking like a gator skin to race on. And for example, you do an Ironman on a gator skin versus their faster GP 4000. You're talking the range of sort of 5 to 7 minutes. You think, well, can you change your puncture in 5 to 7 minutes? Probably. And
Yeah.
just little things like that if people don't put the number on something or understand how to, then yeah, they're sort of quite blind in how they select equipment. And it might be what a pro's using or what someone on their club rides recommended or down the shops. When you can start measuring stuff, and obviously power meters have opened that world up to everybody, you can start improving things.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you're from a triathlon background yourself originally, aren't you? You were British super sprint champion 4 years
Yeah,
ago,
I
am I right in
started.
saying?
Trying to think what year that was. 2012.
Okay, so a little
I think
bit
that was
longer
May
ago.
2000. Yeah, six. Yeah, it'd be 6 years this May. So that was British University champs actually. Where was that? Nottingham Home Pierpoint. Just trying to remember back on it. So I borrowed a bike for it, bought a cheap wetsuit, and just had a go at it really. And yeah, won it first time out, which is pretty mad. And
There
that's
you
sort
go.
of
Happy
as
days.
everybody expects, you get the bug, and that's it. You're in. And that sort of progressed for the next. I think when I stopped, it was 2015, 16. I started to switch over towards cycling. So I'd raced everything from the super sprint all the way up to half Ironman distance, just dabbling and enjoying myself really.
And was it essentially, I remember reading it was a run injury that ended up sort of pointing you towards the fact that combined with obviously your real talent was your strength on the bike sort of moved you into the time trialing area.
Yeah, exactly. I picked up plantar fasciitis from running. God knows how, because I didn't actually run all that much. But I, yeah, that put me
Maybe
out
that's
of
the
the running
problem.
stuff. And probably so. But yeah, it was kind of a blessing in disguise, I guess. At the time, you persevere through these things and think, no, it definitely is the right sport. But in the cold light days, especially looking back on it, yeah, I definitely think I was a better cyclist than I ever was a triathlete, and I was probably kidding myself a little bit. So quite glad for that injury.
Yeah, it's interesting how it can be actually a really good thing for you in the long term, isn't it? Because alongside that, you graduated from university and then you went to work for, was it Mercedes McLaren in the F1 aerodynamics department?
So that was sort of during uni. So I did my undergrad, then I worked at Mercedes, then I went to do my master's degree. So it's kind of in between the two. And then after that, moved out into the world of sport. I enjoyed F1 for what it was, is what I always wanted to do, but equally realised it wasn't the place for me, or at least I didn't see a career there in the future. It's quite intense. It's night shifts, it's weekends, it's long hours, and if you want to do any sort of sport, then as much as they support it, you can't train properly and you can't be competitive at sort of elite level. So I decided to go down the more sporting route and use that knowledge from engineering and Formula One and apply that into cycle sport really, and well, also into athletics with British athletics. But yeah, I've been through British athletics and also with Drag to Zero, where that was a pretty awesome experience. And honestly, Sam's a very switched on guy and learned a great deal there.
And so really all those things add up together, don't they? Your ability to be really strong on the bike, your interest in the engineering side of things, and in the kind of the aerodynamics especially, and working alongside Simon Smart at Drag to Zero, I think he's quite rightly respected as the first person to sort of commercially bring that to the masses in this country, isn't he? In terms of wind tunnel and drag testing and things like that. Because friends of mine who've been down and been in the tunnel have come back and said, you just won't believe the difference it makes in terms of drag numbers when you're in there. You know, you're in a tunnel and someone swaps helmets over and over and over, and then they go, you know, the cumulative effect can be sort of 50 watts of gain or something like that in terms of a reduction in
Yeah,
drag.
absolutely crazy, isn't it? And until you measure it, you don't really appreciate, or once you put a number on it, you can start to understand that the effect is massive. And yeah, Simon was first there and well ahead of the curve. Really, he's been doing it for must be 10 plus years now. So yeah, he beat everybody to the aero race and had a good head start on them all. So people like Matt Bottrell and Michael Hutchinson obviously got in there nice and early and were cleaning up the domestic and even at sort of world level. Hutch had some great results at the Commonwealth Games and a few other international TTs, and really showed that you don't have to have a massive engine to really dominate the sport.
Yeah, and I think that's something that still people today are only just really starting to realise, in terms of guys like you are sort of saying, you don't need the biggest engine to win these races. And I think it's easy to sit here for us and go, yeah, well, that really doesn't affect me. But actually, massive gains can be made for every single athlete in terms of optimising position and kit. And as you said yourself, Matt Boswell's got himself to the very, very top of the sport. Michael Hutchins got himself to the very, very top of the sport. And we assume they've got like the biggest engines around, while that actually might not be the case in reality.
Yeah, I think Hutch was quite an interesting one because his numbers were big, but he struggled to get aerodynamic for his size and shape. So he was kind of, I guess, your typical big engine guy like your Chris Boardman. But again, like Chris is another example of he's had a world-class engine, but actually took the performance stuff incredibly seriously and wasn't even well ahead of the curve. Like, not many people can even get near what he rode now.
Yeah. He is the curve.
Yeah, he is the curve. Yeah, he's sitting right at the top.
I remember looking back and sort of years and years ago, Michael Hutchins was one of the first guys who had the sort of hand position that you ride with at the moment, and a lot of the fast guys seem to have switched to over the last year with sort of hands very high, almost like reverse ski bend extensions, and head almost tucked down behind the hands. Was that a result of being in the tunnel and seeing the numbers that came out for him in that position?
Yeah, so the high hand position it does multiple different things, but on the whole, it just enables you to keep a good, well-shrugged head because of how it relaxes the muscles around your neck and your shoulders. But yeah, you've just got to adjust the numbers on that kind of thing. So these positions didn't just appear because someone's having a go at it. They're following what the results are saying. So they're trying different things because you've got this sort of window of where you can fit a person on the bike, and your extension angle is one thing that's relatively unimportant biomechanically. You can just play about with it and see what optimizes you aerodynamically. So when you've got freedom, you sort of push and prod and see what happens and just follow the numbers on it, really. And obviously positions like that, or the Superman and all those kind of stuff, come out of just people being a bit inventive and a bit trial and error, really.
Yeah. And is it something that you can sort of give some general guidelines for people, as like, we tend to see that these shapes tend to be faster? Or is it a case that you have to go into the tunnel with each individual athlete to find out what makes them faster?
Well, it doesn't have to be the tunnel itself. Field testing's becoming a whole lot more popular and more accessible. With, obviously, we do aerodynamic testing at Derby, Aerocoach down at Newport, and there's a number of other companies popping up sort of around the place that perform aerodynamic testing. So yeah, it's not just limited to the wind tunnel. You can do field testing on the velodrome, but it's hard to say that there's not so much one position you could put on anybody and say, yep, you're going to be fast. There's a few things that tend to work, but it's very, very unique to the person. And I think at the end of the day, you just need to get on and test it.
Okay, so if someone's at home and they're kind of serious about improving their power and their speed and stuff, what guidelines would you give them to set up some kind of rough field test that they can go out and get some results and see if they're making improvements or not?
So if you do a bit of Googling online, you can read quite a bit about the Robert Chung method, which is effectively just dynamics, and there's some software out there with Golden Cheetah that can analyze your data for you, reading. So maybe spend an evening or two just reading up on it, figuring out how to test and how to look at the numbers. So the case out there, it's a little bit rough and ready, and it's the quality is down to how well you perform the test, and also how well you can effectively use the software to a certain extent and understand its limitations. But you can start to look at things, so either that's arm position, helmet, skin suits, wheels. You can start to sort of differentiate the difference between the two of them. It might take multiple runs, but obviously the only limitation is your time and the amount of effort you put in.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one really important way that people can go out and practice with their sort of their position and things like that. Now, you mentioned early on, and it was great that you gave specific examples. You sort of said, look, if people are running gator skin tyres that have got loads of puncture protection in compared to the faster tyres that are available, they could be saving, was it up to 7 minutes as a number that you gave?
Yeah, it's quite a big factor in your performance, that. And for example, we went from a continental gator skin to a continental GP 4000. Yeah, the gains can be in that sort of region. Obviously depends on how quick you are, how heavy you are, but yeah, it's quite surprising when people start to put numbers on it, and it's just breaking down where your energy is being lost to. So whether it's to aerodynamic drag, to tyres and bearings, to your drivetrain, once you can measure that, you can start to improve it. And there's plenty of data out there on the internet. If you look at what's known as coefficient of rolling resistance, just pop that into Google with bicycle tyres at the end, and there's plenty of websites with lots of either home derived data, or even there's commercial companies that are starting to test and quickly compare things like puncture protection versus roll resistance versus tire mass for all these different models. So it's become more and more available and more quantifiable.
So it's definitely worthwhile people picking up a pair of GP 4000s to race on then, if we know that they're the fastest and sort of the crossover of puncture protection and performance.
I think they're a very good option. They're very, very good for puncture protection and durability and aerodynamics and rolling resistance. However, I wouldn't always say they're the fastest tyre. However, that's, I guess, a bit of a guarded secret, or people can go and have a look at what I've been running. But yeah, they're a very, very good option. But there are other faster solutions out there.
Yeah, sure. And does running latex inner tubes make a big difference to, or how much of a difference would swap into latex inner tubes make?
It can be quite large, sort of in the region of 2 to 3 watts per tyre. So that's going to save you, I think off the top of my head, so it's talking about a minute to a minute and a half for an Ironman bike leg, just for changing your inner tubes.
Wow, that's significant, isn't it? And for the sake of spending whatever it is, £7 on an inner
20
tube.
quid.
Yeah.
For 2, yeah. And you're a long way up the road for a very, very small gain.
Yeah, definitely. Now, let's talk about the thing that was, it was kind of the secret chain on Bradley Wiggins' bike when he broke the hour record, and everyone was saying, oh, he's got this special chain that's covered in wax. And it turns out that we have this product here called the Wattshop Dirty Fast chain, which is one of these virtually friction-free chains that you've gone and developed. So first up, give us a headline figure. Just by swapping to one of your chains, how much time would someone save in an Ironman?
So typically you save around 1 to 1.5% of your power produced. So if you're going to ride an Ironman at, let's say, 250 watts, in the region of 2.5 to 4 watts saving. So most of the sort of power is, so you're talking more about 5 watts for time trialists. But so let's say, let's go for a 3 watt gain. That's typically going to be about a minute improvement for an Ironman bike leg.
Simply for swapping the chain over.
Yeah.
So
quite surprising.
It really is, isn't it? And one of the things we should mention here is on your blog, you've got a fantastic blog article that's called "What's It Worth," where you've brilliantly laid out a whole list of things that someone can change on the bike and how much it'll cost them and how much the wattage saving would be in terms of a saving aerodynamic drag. And it's not the sexy stuff that is the best investment, is it? When you go down there. It's not the change into a new bike or having a fancy helmet. Actually, the things that get you the most watts per pound spent is, first up, having a set of toe covers over your shoes, and second in the value proposition is one of your chains. So it's backed up by your numbers as well.
Yeah, it's not a big expense. You're going to spend, let's say, £30 on a chain and spend another £30 on top. You've got a wax chain, and the savings are pretty big. Like the shoe covers as well, and clothing is just another big factor where you don't have to spend a great deal of money. But yeah, the wax chains themselves sort of started off as something I was doing for myself. I'd read about it a bit online and developed my own sort of recipe, as it were. And people started to say, well, can I have a chain wax, please? And before long, it was sort of an online website and getting orders from everywhere, and got quite popular. And I guess I'm a bit more reasonably priced than my competitors with Ceramic Speed and Muck Off, but all our performance tests so far have shown we're right up there at the top end, performance-wise, for half the price.
So in terms of what they actually are, you've got a standard chain, you clean it, and then you put your secret sauce all over it, and that just reduces the amount of friction, is it, I guess? Or is that a closely guarded secret?
To plates and pins, the fittings are relatively simple. So it's just a different type of lubricant. So you typically using either thinner oils or oils with different additives in, wherever that might be. Whereas a paraffin, it's paraffin-based wax with molybdenum disulfide, which is a dry lubricant, and PTFE or Teflon, whatever you want to call it, in a closely guarded recipe mixture. But yeah, simply that. It's an ultrasonically clean chain that's been soaked in molten wax effectively, and then coated with PTFE afterwards. And it's just a very, very good lubricant for chains which are, well, at least on cyclists, on low tension. And just obviously you want to keep them nice and clean, and they're often kept dry, so it's not so much of a problem. I mean, we played about with motorsport applications, but just the loads are quite big and it doesn't quite work as well.
I see. Okay. And so if people want to pick up one of your Watt Shop chains, then do you still have the option where they can send the chain to you, or do you just sell them direct?
No, if you've got a chain, so for example, if you bought a chain off us and used it as a race day chain, then it's not really going to wear out very quickly at all. So once the actual wax coating itself has done its time, then you can send it back to us and we'll re-wax it for you.
So it's a no-brainer for 30 quid, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal, and I guess all my teammates are quite happy they've got me as a housemate.
So listen, let's talk a little.
Wax chains all day. Yeah.
Wax, yeah. Well, don't talk about it too much, because then all your competitors will start having them as well. So,
yeah, true.
So you and the boys in the track team, then let's talk a little bit about this. Tell us the story of basically. It's waiting to be made into a Hollywood movie. The underdogs turn up. Tell us how this all happened.
It's not even waiting, actually. The movie, I'll say a movie, the documentary on it's going out in a couple of weeks. We've had a videographer following us, but I'll come to that in a minute.
Yeah, brilliant. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a secret. We haven't put much out about it yet, but the teaser video will be launched in a few days' time, and hopefully the actual documentary itself will be around the World Champs in a couple of.
Oh, it'd be great if we could get your episode here. I was going to say, it'd be great if we could have your episode released as that comes out as well, and people can go straight and watch it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think it's probably going to be on Vimeo, but I'm not 100% sure yet. We're waiting on James to finalise all the details and for us to actually see the finished product. But it's an exciting little. He does. I've gone his own months now, but he's been everywhere with us to Switzerland, to Belarus, proper committed, which is pretty cool. And he's got some awesome footage, just stuff you don't think about what you're saying and doing at all hours of the day. And obviously he's there with a camera and well, not even your face, just hidden around the corner, and often catches some older moments. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it all looks when it's put together.
Oh, that's great. Well, we'll be able to. Great, people can finish listening to this and then go and find the video. Then, but come on, give us a story. Give us the condensed version.
So, quick as we can. So, the team itself for 5 weeks out. It was me and Charlie training for the individual pursuit, and we were like, why don't we enter a team pursuit? And I managed to drag my mate Johnny, who was training there for the British Uni Champs at the time at Derby, dragged him along as man one, and managed to sign Jacob Tipper as well to the team pretty last minute. So we got together 4 weeks out, some mad amount of training, and then somehow rocked up at British National Champs and took the win in the final against the Cycling Senior Academy. It was pretty close. It was about half a second in it. But our time would have been, it was at top 8 or top 9 at the Rio Olympics. And we thought, well, if we've done this after 4 weeks, what can we do if we go full gas and do this properly? So from there, the team was born, and we looked into all the UCI team registrations, and we missed the deadline, which wasn't ideal, by about 2 months. So we had about a week to get all the money together. It's about £5,000 to register a team. So it was all quite rushed and quite last minute. But managed to pull together, I say, just enough money to get by. Probably not even that. It was touch and go, just the first set of World Cups. Luckily, we got some later funding. So, yeah, we went to Poland World Cup and Manchester World Cup. Off the back of about 4 months of solid training at Derby, where we got a great deal of help from like the Derbyshire Institute of Sport and Derby Arena, and a lot of other local companies and sponsors in general, typically British brands that we'd associated with, who were keen to be a bit innovative and a bit different in developing cool and fast products for us. We didn't have a great time out in Poland with Tipper having effectively an off day, which meant he didn't make it through the rounds, and we only got two of us to the line. And it was a bit of I came back to Manchester and turned it around. We were in the bronze medal final against European champions France, and just missed out in the final sort of five. Yeah, we missed out by about half a second or so. Fourth place, a bunch of amateurs we were pretty pleased with. And yeah, good next few months we've been to Portugal and Switzerland for some class ones, which is kind of sort of lower level racing, and then went to Belarus World Cup, which was the last World Cup of the season. And we're doing both the individual pursuit with Charlie. We were allowed one spot, and the team pursuit. And we'd pulled Charlie's brother in, Harry, by that point, because Johnny had a bit of fun after breaking his collarbone, and we were unsure whether he'd be back or not. So we got eyes then, which meant the good opportunity of being able to drop Charlie out from the rounds to rest him. Pursuit qualifying, individual pursuit qualifying, individual pursuit final, team pursuit rounds, and team pursuit final in 3 days. It starts to get a bit fatiguing. So being able to rest him out was a good option, as it were. So yeah, we didn't really put much of a foot wrong, at least on the track that weekend. We had some good arguments with the UCI. They were trying to change how they were implementing one of the regulations about extension height the night before the race. Which meant cue me sitting in the managers' meeting. It was very sort of Flying Scotsman-esque. I was sitting there like I feel like a modern day O'Brien in some ways, moaning at the UCI trying to change the rules and pull the carpet from underneath us right before the race. But luckily, I say they saw sense. The head commissaire from the UCI, Johan, he came along the morning and was quite happy with how we felt it should be interpreted, but said there's likely to be a clarification before the World Champs. And as of yesterday, there was. It just meant we've had to change our sort of equipment a little bit, but nothing too drastic. It was just nice to have a clean solution. So anyway, yeah, the World Cup itself, we qualified fastest. Then Charlie qualified fastest in the IP, took the win in about second half off the world record, which is not a bad ride, all things considered. And then we won the rounds again in the fastest time, and then went to the final against Loko Swings, which is effectively the Russian national team. The Russian national team had entered their under-23 squad. So yeah, we were ahead effectively against Russians in the final, and they pushed us hard up until 3K. We were neck and neck. There was only a couple of tenths in it either way, and then final kilometre, Harry finally got in the front and pulled a big monster turn, and we took the win by about 2 seconds, I think, in the end. Yeah, and we were picking the pace up. I think our last kilo was probably our quickest as well. So we took the win.
That's just brilliant for a bunch of housemates who've decided we're going to do this ourselves and shoestring it. And I love the argument with the commissaires, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was kind of, I guess in some ways, a dream come true, because I love the rule book and I love arguing about it. I guess it's from the F1 days of like, that was one of my roles, of picking apart rules and looking at how you can pull or look for loopholes or different areas that you can take advantage of. And to be honest, the UCI rule book's not quite as well written as the F1 one. So we found plenty of little loopholes, but it's how far you can willingly push them without, I guess, borderline being cheeky. They accept it in motorsport. In cycling, it's a bit of a gentleman's agreement for everyone to abide by the regulations. So when a bunch of amateurs from Derby come along saying, no, we're going to push the rules to their limit, then some eyebrows get raised.
Interesting. Well, I'm really looking forward to watching the video of this. It sounds like it's going to be fantastic. And just what you said, it sounds like you had the full-on Graham Mowbray experience of having the rug pulled out from under you almost at the last minute.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of Nations team managers when we had our hacksaws and files out the night before, thinking we we're going to have to make some drastic changes here. But yeah, we got away with it. There was a few little things to change, but yeah, nothing too bad. And yeah, all good on the day.
And so, have you been invited then down to train with British Cycling and get involved in that setup now? Obviously, you know, you've raised eyebrows isn't a phrase. You've just kicked doors in, haven't you? Really.
Yeah, it was. I think when I first emailed BC, it was probably just after Nationals last year, and got a sort of fairly standard reply of like, "This is what we expect about Olympic events. You need to be medal competitive in a team pursuit," which is what they said. So like, well, what's medal competitive in a team pursuit? Do a bit of maths. All right, then we think we can do that. Let's go and do it. And obviously, yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy season with our results. So yeah, off the back of that, they've pulled me and Charlie in, and we've been doing sort of 2 or 3 days a month for the past couple of 3 months now, I think. I'm at Manchester right now in between double days. But yeah, we've both been selected to go to the World Champs with the team, which I think is the first time in over a decade that a non-program rider, let alone two, has been selected for the team, which is pretty cool, I think, to go and do that.
That's wonderful, mate. That's really, really good. And it's so good to see you getting recognised for doing stuff off your own back. And there was part of me when I read this story was thinking, I wonder if there's people at British Cycling are hoping to learn as much from you as you're going to get from being on the programme.
Yeah, I thought the same when I came in. I thought maybe it'd be you'd turn up with the 101 questions about everything. I mean, the riders themselves are super interested in what we're doing. They want to understand what our is, how, because at the end of the day, they want to go quicker as well. So we learn a lot from them, and they're trying to learn a lot from us. And there's been plenty of offers of a cup of coffee between different guys at BC who obviously want to pick a bit of our brains, and equally in return, they've been there, done that with a whole lot more riders than we ever have. We've just sort of pushed our way through with 14 pursuiters who have a totally different skill set, and they've had hundreds, if not thousands, of riders come through their systems and somewhat seen it all before. So yeah, there's a lot to learn both ways, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's the ultimate dream for you? What's next? And if things played out perfectly, what would... Because I remember, I'm going to go back, I remember reading one of your blogs where you kind of said when you were working for British Athletics, it was a fantastic job, but you felt a little bit like, not that you'd missed out, but, you know, that kind of I could have been a contender kind of feeling. I'm not ready to give up the dream yet kind of thing. And that's what led you to effectively quit your job and throw it all in with the cycle training.
Yeah, exactly that. You kind of give all this help and support and advice and develop all this cool technology for these GB sprinters. And exactly that. I'm thinking, well, I want that. Like, why can't I have that? Surely I'm capable of something that warrants having the same kind of treatment of developing all this top stuff and trying to go fast. And yeah, at the time wasn't 100% sure. Well, I didn't even really think that being on the BC program was even possible, but it was like, well, let's see how far I can take it. I'm young once, and I can probably just about get by and have a go at it. So yeah, it was just over 2 years ago that I left. 2.5 years ago nearly that I left there, and said, right, let's go for it. So yeah, it's been a quite drastic change, but it's cool to kind of get here now. But looking forward, I haven't really thought a great deal about what I want to achieve. The big goal was get to the Commonwealth Games, and hopefully in the next week or so we find out on that one, if we're going. But obviously the Worlds is a big one in the middle that I hadn't even planned or thought about. As much as it's a spanner in the works, it's a very welcome one to train towards. So yeah, if I could medal there, medal at Commonwealths, I'd be a pretty happy boy. And going forward from there, just see what options come up to me really. But I'd love to be on the programme and see how far that goes as well.
It would be just a boy's own end to the year, wouldn't it, really, to go from like relative unknown at the start of 2017 to 8 national titles and then medals potentially at the Commonwealths and the Worlds. We'll say it's the same year. It's not quite, is it? There's a couple of months out, but it's close enough for the story arc.
Close enough, yeah. Yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, brilliant. Hey, well, listen, it's been really, really good talking to you, Dan. We've learned loads from you today. If people want to find out more about you and your services and your amazing sounding friction-free chains, where can they go and what do they need to do to find out more, or if they want to make a purchase?
So if you hop on Google or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter and pop in Watt Shop, WATT, Watts, then yeah, if you pop that in, we'll pop right up, and all our chains and armrests and aero testing, it's all on our website. If you drop us a message or an email, always happy to chat and answer questions and help people go fast.
Fantastic stuff. Hey, and listen, just before you go, the one question that I didn't get round to asking you was, the rumours are that Ali Brownlee's new position on the bike might have been somewhat influenced by you. So are you in a position to clarify this or not? Because when he did, was it 70.3 Dubai he was in just the other week? And I think he rode a 1:58 for 90 kilometres. And his bike position looked very similar to someone else's I can think of. So is there any truth in this rumour?
There could be a few connections there. I
Awesome.
do have a connection with Hoob, and I believe Hoob have a connection with Mr. Brownlee, so there could be some truth in the rumours indeed.
That's great. So it's lovely to know that going forward, the fruits of your knowledge are also potentially and possibly helping out one of our greatest Olympians as he makes his move to 70.3 in Ironman distance racing. Yeah,
he's an absolute machine, and yeah, with how much power he's got and how aero he's gotten, it's he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, that's for sure.
How fast? All right, last question. How fast do you think Al could go over the full Ironman bike leg with the power and the aerodynamics you've seen him?
On a fast course, every reason to think he'd go sub 4 on the right course. It depends what he's targeting. That's the big thing. There's lots of ifs and buts, because at the end of the day, it's a race from the start of the swim to the end of the run. You can't just smash the bike, as it were. But I think he's definitely got that in him.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'd love to see him be the first guy to do it. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, it'd be amazing. Yeah, if he could. He's definitely got it. So maybe one day soon.
That's brilliant. I think, Hells, there's going to be a lot of people are interested in spending an extra 30 quid to gain what is a not insignificant amount of power through the chain, hey?
Oh, absolutely. Because people are willing to spend, a lot of people, Rob, are happy to spend, a few grand on a brand new bike. So
Totally. Well, as I mentioned in the interview, there's a great blog on Dan's website, which we'll link to in the show notes. If you go over and check that out, he breaks down how much certain items cost against what the kind of likely aerodynamic gain is in terms of the amount of power it would take to power you if you didn't have that gain, if you're with me. So he talks about, you would gain 15 watts by using this or that or the other. And lo and behold, the two biggest gains in terms of gains per pound spent were toe covers for your shoes and one of his wax chains. So they're not expensive items to buy. It's like a 30 quid purchase, and it's going to gain you more than $2 grand on a set of race wheels would in terms of the money spent per watt, as it were. Dead interesting. A great guy as well.
Best of luck to them all at the World Championships. It's going to be great.
It sure is. Right, a little bit of news for you guys then. Just a couple of quick articles we found to wrap up today's show. First up, unfortunately, we're sad to announce that there will be no Southern Outlaw Half this year.
Yep, they were due to be putting on their first half event in the south of England. We spoke to them, didn't we, at Outlaw Half in Nottingham last year, chatting about it. But they say that basically they have always aimed to put on events that they want to take part in themselves, and unfortunately in this case they have simply run out of time to get the event ready for competitors despite a whole lot of effort. So it will not happen in 2018. Obviously, Outlaw Half Nottingham is going to be taking place on the 20th of May. That one's sold out, but there are still places for the Outlaw Half in Holcombe.
Good stuff. And another bit of news for our listeners down under. They've made some subtle changes to the courses at Ironman Western Australia and 70.3 Western Australia in Busselton because of we were talking recently, weren't we, about the swims being cancelled because of shark sightings. So they've changed the swims to try and make it a little bit safer.
Yeah, they have.
It looks. If you're swimming down there.
It is absolutely good news. And also, Rob, it's also, it is good news because when you enter a race, when you pay that amount of money, you want to be able to do the whole thing, don't you?
Yeah, totally. No matter how much we all moan about the swim, everybody wants to do the full event, no questions asked.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the full Ironman swim course is going to change to a 2-loop swim, and the 70.3 Western Australia and 70.3 Busselton are going to be just a single loop sort of format course.
So back and forth along the beach, 100 metres out or so, rather than going all the way out to sea. And probably better for people's mental states as well, I think, to be honest as well. It's somehow nicer to only be a couple of 100 metres offshore, isn't it, rather than 2k offshore?
Well, if you're going to be surrounded by sharks.
Plus, I suppose, the aspect that if the shark swims in, everyone can leg it for the shore, can't they? Fastest 100 or slowest 100 loses.
Exactly.
Shouldn't joke about it. Oh dear.
God, no. Seriously, I would be absolutely petrified.
Yeah.
I was scared enough of the blooming jellyfish, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Let alone sharks. Rob, one other thing which we need to say is that it is the last week to send in your nominations for the Tribe Triathlete of the month for February. So do drop me an email, helen@oxygenaddict.com. We want to hear if someone's done a brilliant race or someone's done something really inspiring, then get nominating. We want to recognise their achievement, and they will win a Tribe. Sorry, I can't talk, Rob. A Tribe booster pack with 18 products. I tell you, I'm making more sense than last week, maybe.
You're doing great. It's great. A Tribe booster pack with products from the whole range: 4 Infinity bars, 4 Blaze Trail bars, 5 recovery bars, 5 protein shakes, and a Tribe t-shirt. So if you know someone who's trained their little backside off this winter, even if they've not raced yet, get them nominated. They'll love you for it forever. And they might even get their name mentioned on the show, right?
Correct.
Good stuff. And that's where we've got to wrap it up for this week. So thanks very much for listening, everybody. You've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. We'll be back next week with an interview with Helen. Say it. Go on. I know you're excited.
Mr. Norwegian.
What's his real name? Something you call him.
Christian Blumenfeld.
There you go. So an interview with Helen's favourite triathlete, Christian Blumenfeld, next week. And until then, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll speak to you again soon. Cheers. See ya.